Hey, what's up everyone? Brandon here. This is James. We're fans of Overwatch, you could say that, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
With Blizzcon 2016 right around the corner, we expect some Overwatch news. Obviously, maybe Sombra's coming out.
Oh, it has to be.
But we wanted to take a minute to discuss maybe some of the things, pie-in-the-sky dreams, that we would want to see come to the game. So, what do you think?
Sure. I'd like to point out that there is absolutely no evidence for any of this. This is just stuff that we want in the game. And I want to start out by pointing out Junkenstein's Revenge. I think that is fantastic. I would love to see some more iteration on that cooperative mode. As a raider from World of Warcraft,
right.
This is kind of, Blizzard's pedigree, or these very interesting action-driven puzzle fights. And so that kind of opened the floodgates for me just mentally about this idea of a PvE co-op mode. I know I'm not the first person to think of this.
Sure, yeah.
But I think that there is maybe a monetization plan as well as some incentive for them to develop something like this, kind of akin to a Hearthstone adventure. So a Hearthstone adventure comes out, it's like this whole themed experience. You can maybe get something that's similar in Overwatch where it's 4-player co-op. There are a series of missions. You pay $7 for all of it. And you get these really cool puzzle fights that have easy, normal, and hard,
right.
Maybe a time trial, get these cool...
Maybe some rewards.
Exactly, some like exclusive skins, stuff like that. I think, Brawl is cool, and this kind of seasonal cadence is cool, but I would love to just have some consistent, maybe co-op content there.
Yeah, I mean, and then you could get constant, sort of DLC updates that sort of come between tournament seasons or balance updates.
And the beautiful thing about all of this is it's completely separate from the core PvP competitive experience. It's all aesthetic, it's all for fun. It's all maybe gets a whole other group of players that aren't necessarily competitive PvP, FPS-focused guys, which I love, by the way, but, sometimes maybe I just want to relax and shoot a couple zombies in the head or something.
I mean, Junkenstein's Revenge is a ton of fun, and grinding it doesn't necessarily feel as bad as like grinding out a multiplayer round if you're losing game after game after game.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And it's on the hardest difficulty. I'd like to point out that it is actually challenging.
Super tough.
Yeah.
Let's talk about characters then.
Sure.
Right.
So Sombra, we definitely know. I mean, I would hope
we definitely know that she's coming next BlizzCon. No, we're 99% that like you gotta reveal her at BlizzCon.
I would throw $100 down and say she's absolutely going to be one of the first things that they divulge. Art just leaked of her, so I think it's all kind of finally wrapping up. A little disappointed that they waited until BlizzCon to do this, but hey, that's fine.
It makes sense.
Sure. So she's going to be a hacker, maybe a stealth character. We don't know anything about her kit, but another character that is very prevalent in the lore that I want to see a lot of is Doomfist.
Yep.
I think a very melee-centric, Kyle O'Connor has been touting this forever. He wants to see a melee-centric character besides Genji that's kind of more of a brawler, tank kind of dude, kind of a Reinhardt, but maybe more mobile, maybe more in your face, aggressive brawler.
And if you remember that intro cinematic, it's the glove that the kid is holding in the intro that Widow tries to steal, and then also on the what map is that? What's the name of it?
Oh, it's
the one anyway. Numbani, yeah.
Yes,
so the fist is actually a payload that is on the payload that you're pushing through. So like, and there's posters of him everywhere. So he's actually fairly centric in the lore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could definitely see him coming. Wild hopes and dreams for another character.
I would like to see some kind of weird xenomorph wall crawler dude.
Yeah.
I think that that's something that they don't necessarily play too much with. Obviously, Lucio can kind of like skate on walls, but I would love to see somebody that's just crawling along the walls. I would love to see them break away from the conventional humanoid and maybe get a little bit weird with it. It is the future. It is kind of a tongue-in-cheek future iteration of Earth. So
I mean, you have a giant talking gorilla. Why can't you have a crazy alien? Yeah.
Right. Speaking of that giant talking gorilla, I think myself as well as a lot of the community, specifically Reddit, wants to see a map on the moon. And I was thinking a little bit more.
I want to put a map on the moon
because it's already a thing. So the Horizon Lunar Colony is where Winston grew up. He was part of this genetically engineered group of gorillas that was kind of created to see if they could survive in space for a long time. And that's a really cool lore beat. But let's get some gameplay behind that lore.
Sure.
Let's get a zero gravity area.
That'd be cool.
Another thing that I think might be cool is maybe if you go out to this kind of like zero gravity area, your character maybe gets a helmet on. And then that, potentially, this is all just whatever, but a headshot, instead of doing a crit, breaks your helmet, and now you get a damage over time effect that is going to kill you unless you get inside, so maybe changing up the
you want like maybe an interactive element to...
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, so like the last map that we got, it didn't have any really interactive elements to it. It just had really cool, based on a castle, and it's really awesome. But you think maps might need like a little extra something?
Sure. The question is more variables means a less competitive environment, so that there's a trade-off there. But
and then you have to pare it down to what can be in tournaments and what can't be.
Sure.
But we started this by talking about Dr. Junkenstein's Revenge, and there's another big holiday coming up right around the corner.
Yes. The holidays, as they're called. Christmas,
the holidays. So
Hanukkah, what have you.
I imagine Blizzard might have something small like that up their sleeve.
Oh, I'm sure they're looking to make that holiday cash that they do in Overwatch with those double costed skins. Oof. But let's talk about some of that. I think right off the bat, Santa Claus Reinhardt is a given.
Oh, no, take it back. Santa Claus Roadhog is a given.
Maybe they can all just be Santa Claus.
The jacket doesn't quite fit, right? And instead of the hog on his belly, it's like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Maybe Reinhardt's real Santa, and then Roadhog is discount Santa.
Sure, I like that a lot. So beyond just the crazy aesthetic stuff, there are obviously new Brawls. Speaking of Brawls, I'd like to point out that Brawls are huge during these kind of seasonal events, but totally just ignored.
Yeah, I don't really play them between events.
So I'd love to see the inclusion of incentive to get into Brawl. Maybe like 100 gold or a box every single week, kind of like they do with Hearthstone. I think it mixes up the monotony of grinding out this competitive stuff. And that's pretty much all I have.
Yeah, I mean, I love everything you touched on, like modes, well, not modes, maps, because the modes are tied to maps. So maps, characters, that new PvE mode is great. It's so great, and I would love to see something more of that on a permanent basis. And then bringing it right back to, again, maps. I think we need more maps.
Sure, yeah.
Because you and I think it's one thing when you play a map a lot, but when you know every single sightline for every potential character. So, but hey, those are just some of the things we were thinking about. What we'd like to see come to Overwatch at BlizzCon. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to come back here November 4th and 5th when BlizzCon kicks off. We'll have all the news, all the announcements, all the trailers, everything coming out. So we'll see you then, and stick right here on IGN for everything Overwatch.